name is Michelle with the Tribal Hub team. Thank you for joining us today for our webinar with Arctic IT and Microsoft. This is actually the fourth webinar we've done with you guys. We've kind of done a series, Tribal Finance, Zero Trust. This is the last one of that series. So thank you guys for your partnership on that. I'm excited to hear about this. I was telling the guys earlier that a membership portal was a really big topic this year at TribalNet, our big conference that we had in Reno. So this will be a really good presentation. All right, let's see. How come there we go. Bryan Schmidt of Arctic, Anthony Ramirez of Microsoft will be our presenters today. This session will be recorded and you'll be able to find it at tribalwise.com. You'll also get an email from Zoom tomorrow afternoon that will also have a link to the copy of the presentation for you to share with anybody on your team who may not have made it today. A couple of two learning objectives to take away from this webinar. If you have any questions during the sessions, please feel free to use that chat, use the Q&A little feature there, and we'll be monitoring those to be able to get those questions to Bryan and Anthony. And just to look at some of the upcoming things we have already moving into January with some of our TribalWise webinars we have coming up. You can always visit tribalwise.com to register. And don't forget about our third annual Tribal Cybersecurity Summit, which is free to register for tribes. You can go to tribalhub.com to find more information and register for that. And that's the end of my little spiel before I hand it over to you guys. So I'm going to hand it off. And if you guys two need anything, just let me know. Okay.
All right. Sounds great. So let's get started here. Oh, that's right. I got to click the share button. All right. So let's get started. So thank you for that introduction, Michelle. I appreciate that. And so let's dive right in. I wanted to briefly welcome everyone and walk through the agenda for the presentation today. We're going to talk a little bit about Arctic IT and the partnership that we have with Tribal Hub and give you an example of how we work with Microsoft every day to deliver these solutions for tribes. We're going to spend a little bit of time talking about why is a member portal important for you and why would you need this for your tribal organization. Then Anthony is going to dive into the intro for the Power Pages and the platform and what the tools that we use to provide these portals for the tribes and their clients. And then we're going to show you an example of a pre-built portal that we've created for tribes. And then we're going to go through a portal demo, a live portal demo, and give you a chance to see an example of how a portal can be used and the kinds of things that you can do. We'll show you a couple different personas or people in their roles of how we would interact with that portal. All right, and then we'll try and keep the conversation interactive. If you do have a question as we're going along, please, you can type that question in the chat. And I've asked Michelle to try and moderate some of those chat questions and feed those to us. But we'll have some time at the end for us to go through those Q&A and get those questions answered. All right. So let's talk a little bit about Arctic IT. So we've been working in tribal space and tribal governments for actually getting closer to 20 years now in providing services both from Microsoft-based accounting and business application services. And we've actually worked with over 80 tribal entities across the United States and Alaska. And we specialize in the technology for both tribal governments and casinos. And we are a 100% Native-owned organization by Doyen Limited, which is an Alaska Native corporation. And we are one of the only Microsoft partners that are gold certified. So that it elicits the deep integration and deep partnership that we have with Microsoft and how important that is for us in providing those services to you as a tribal organization. And just a brief map to show you, we've got a presence across the United States for many different tribes, just to give you an idea of the scope of the work that we do for everyone. All right, so now why a member portal? So let's talk a little bit about why, the member portal is that key aspect to bring your members that may be living on the reservation, maybe geographically distributed across the United States, but allowing all those people who may want to interact with the tribal government but don't have access to come into the office. It provides them 24/7 accessibility to request services, update information, and take action that it may be difficult for them to do on their own. So it's really important for them to stay engaged, and I hear that frequently around allowing your members to not have to drive long distances to request services or coming into the office, especially when we were in the COVID days where members couldn't come into the office to request services. They had to schedule appointments. It was really difficult. So that kind of accelerated the need for portal and made it crystal clear about why it's important for tribal organizations to improve that member engagement. And also we're seeing that new members, younger generation is becoming more tech savvy, and they're demanding these kind of online services of our tribes, and they want to interact through electronic methods, and they expect websites to request these kinds of services. So it's just an evolution in the way that your tribal organization can work with your members and provide your services and extend the work that you do. And you know what? Traditionally, we've done everything through snail mail, the postal mail and so forth, and that can be really slow. Especially for individuals who may be in crisis. They need assistance or they may need help right away. And this is a more streamlined, improved way to call out and request those services than in the past. And we've got an example here that was highlighted at TribalNet. For those that attended TribalNet, this was a quote that was communicated for everyone that it really does provide that benefit in streamlining the services. And there's a portal story out there that you can read that Microsoft published around how that can be realized for your team to be able to deploy these services and make your members or help your members understand what services are available to them. Now I'll hand it over to Anthony, and he's going to walk us through the Power Pages and the part of the platform to provide these services.
Awesome. Thanks, Bryan. Cool. So, one of the things that we see across a lot of working with the tribes and tribal customers is, there are these common web development challenges, right? There's budget and time constraint, technical constraints, project onboarding, different data silos or different sets of data. You have a whole bunch of different problems as we're encountering these tribes. One of the main technical constraints we always hear is either, how do we keep up with the pace that Microsoft is doing with the technology, or we have only one or two resources that are keeping up with that pace, but they're already doing a whole bunch of other things and we're really limited on capacity. So these are some of the common challenges that we see as we're interacting with tribes. When you go to look to build your own portal, or when you start to engage and think, how do I engage my tribal members? So one of the things that the Power Platform does is it's essentially a low-code development platform that can address a lot of these challenges. So, you have to balance the required skills and resources with the impact to the business, to the individual tribe. And, what we've uncovered is there's over 1,000, transformation scenarios that are identified but are in touch, right? Maybe there's scenarios, there's things that you want to do, everything from like ballet apps to, tribal member portals, right? All of these things you want to do, but it's like, how do we do it when we don't have enough resources? And it's going to take us forever to, build these applications. And there may not be an app for that, right? There's not an app for tribal member services to actually have a catalog, if you will, of applications, right? Of what you can do from a services perspective for that tribe. So, it's a really hard problem to solve. And I think one of the things that I love about Arctic IT is kind of accelerated this process for you guys. So let's take a look at the next slide. So what is happening with Power App portals? Essentially, we're going through this rebranding. Before, we had Power Apps and Power Apps portals. It was kind of separate. And then now, in the future, we have Power Pages. And essentially, it's the integration of these two environments to natively have Power Pages talk to Dataverse. And Dataverse is our cloud native database to securely store your member data, as an example. So, portals really is awesome because it supports natively multiple devices, right? You can build it once and scale to any form factor. So some of the benefits of Power Pages, like I mentioned, right, you can create these modern, rich, responsive applications for your tribe to really engage your members and the tribal community. And you're going to see a little bit of that later when Bryan goes through the demo. But it's really about making authoring easy for everybody, right? You don't need to be a developer. You don't need to be a coder. You can build without boundaries, and you can really share that website with confidence, right? Like I mentioned before, the form factor is key. It's huge, being able to just build it once and have it work on a whole host of devices that all of your tribal members may have.
And that's a really key point, Anthony, is that, I've heard that multiple times from different tribes that they want to make sure that the portal that they provide is accessible on a phone, on a tablet, or a laptop device. And that is one of the key benefits, that we get to build this once. And it just responds. They call it a web responsive design, and it just automatically adjusts to the device that the individual user is using. And you'll see that in the demo when we get into the demo.
Yeah,
that's a really important aspect.
Cuts tremendously on development costs too, because you're not having to design for multiple form factors and develop a whole specific mobile platform. It just works.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So when we talk about Power Pages, right, versus some of the popular, what you see is what you get editors, right? These are the drag and drop editors you can kind of just go search for online and then quickly build a web page. But the difference is Power Pages really gives you a lot of enterprise class integrations out of the box. This is talking to over 750 different data sources across your organization. And those can be non-Microsoft data sources. Those could be any data sources that exist inside the Microsoft Cloud or outside. A rich, user security. We're built on Azure, with zero trust. You can control things down to the IP level from a restriction perspective for accessing those resources. From a data security perspective, right? All of our data is encrypted at rest. All of our data is encrypted at transport, and you own the keys to that data, right? Microsoft doesn't own the data. No one else can see the data but you. We have a massive workflow engine native to our platform called Power Automate, as well as workflow engines within Dynamics 365, which allow you to do and trigger off of any of the events that you're about to see in the demo here in a little bit. Data validation and reporting, right, comes out of the box. You don't have to hard code and manually code all of your data validation for email addresses, for phone numbers, for some of the basic data that you're gathering from your member portals.
Mm-hmm. And I wanted to just reiterate that point that Anthony made around the data security. It's really important for you to understand that when you typically use one of these other web apps or the web hosting environments, that data typically, especially if you want member data to be available out there, you're now all of a sudden taking that data out of your sovereignty and not meeting your data sovereignty requirements. So that's one of the key requirements that we bring to the table, and we work with Microsoft to make sure that data, especially the member data, is sovereign to the nation. You own it. It's encrypted, and you provide permissions to those individuals that have access to it. So that's a really big difference between the two. Yes, they can both edit and create the same layout and really cool graphics, but the data sovereignty is a really important question to ask, and make sure that you're thinking about that whenever you're looking at moving to a portal technology or portal platform.
Yeah. So looking at a portal architecture, right? What you're about to see here is, Arctic IT has done a phenomenal job at leveraging the Microsoft Cloud technology and strapping all of these different pieces together. The Microsoft Cloud has multiple components of it. So you get the best of Microsoft 365 integration, Power Pages, which is going to be your member portal, which you'll see here, the backend Dynamics 365 from a member management perspective to see where all those requests and applications go. Dataverse, like I mentioned, which is integrated to this core solution. And all of it built securely on top of Azure, which is our cloud platform. And that's the portal architecture that you're about to see here in a second.
Mm-hmm.
So tribes are moving to the Microsoft Cloud, right? And these are some stats as of, this year in November, right? There's over 300 tribal tenants already in the Microsoft Cloud. Over 155,000 tribal employees are already leveraging the Microsoft 365 E3, E5, right? Which entitles you access to half of the Power Platform already. And then over 60 tribal organizations are already using Dynamics 365 to build their software as a service solutions within their tribe, right? And there's a whole other host of tribal users or that are in the cloud at a mix of different suite levels and services already taking advantage of the benefits of the Microsoft Cloud.
Yeah, and just to hit on that point again, Anthony, don't feel like, for you that are attending this and looking at potentially deploying a portal, you're not the first person, you're not the first tribe to actually cross this bridge. So realize that we've met the data sovereignty requirements. This is proven technology. This is not something new, and it's out there working and delivering value for other tribes. So just want to help you understand that you're not blazing a trail. It's a well-worn trail, and we'll help you navigate that process.
Yep. And with that, Bryan, I'll turn it back over to you to
Okay.
talk about the amazing solution that you've all built around, the portal and accelerating that for tribes.
Yeah. All right. Great. Thank you, Anthony. So what I'm going to do now is just give you a brief introduction to tribal platforms, and that's the solution that Arctic IT has built based on Dynamics 365, based with the Power Platform and the Power Page tools that Anthony has described. So that tribal platform solution is a suite of applications, including the community portal, that serves as that member master database with all the security and everything that comes along with it. And it allows you to be able to expose applications and programs and so forth through the portal to your members in a secure way, helping them manage their own information and interact. So what we're going to do is show you an example of a pre-built solution that you can go out and implement and deploy for your organization. You don't have to build it from scratch. We can help you get started down that path and make that process because we've actually built this as a tribal government specific, supporting your business processes of what you need to deploy a portal and make the data secure. So again, what we're going to focus on is just one aspect, which is the Power Pages, but realize that behind the scenes, there's going to be some other applications that light up some of the data that I'm going to show you in the portal, and that's where some of the value really comes into play. Because each of these apps are built on top of what you saw before, the Dataverse. That's where all the core data is stored, and we're exposing that through the Power Pages into the portal. Okay, so I'm not going to spend a tremendous amount of time on those apps. But realize that, again, as a community portal, your members get 24-hour access. They can look up information. This is highly available for your members. They can submit requests, see programs that might be available, submit an application wherever they may be. And it really does eliminate that need for in-person services, especially if you have a large reservation and it takes hours in some cases for members to drive to the government offices. You can eliminate and streamline those processes and make it so much easier for your members to interact with you, with your staff. And they can, either send email or communicate through the portal. So you'll see some of those scenarios as well in the demo. And we, built this out as an example portal, but we understand that you're going to have specific needs, and so that's why the Power Pages is so powerful. Because we can configure that with your branding, the look and feel, links to your website, give you the URL for the name that you want it to be. So there's lots of configuration work that we can make in the system that will personalize it for you and make it your own. That's really the goal. We want to make this portal to be your portal and your way to expose these services to your members. Okay, so now I'm going to switch gears and bring up the portal itself, and we will go here. All right, so now what I'm going to do in this demo is I'm going to actually serve as two user roles or personas. The first one is going to be Alicia. I'm going to simulate being Alicia logging into the portal, and I'm already signed in, and because I'm signed in, it understands the data that I have access to, and it filters everything that's in the database to only data that I am permitted to actually view. I'm also going to switch gears as we get into the demo to simulate being a staff person. So for your organization, I'm going to at least show you a couple pages where your member Alicia will go in and log or update this change request, and then how I can actually visualize that as a staff person, being able to review that request and process it. And we'll see that interaction and how that works. All right, so as you can see within the navigation, I'm just running within a browser. So there's no specific browser requirements. There's no data stored on the device. And that's an important aspect to understand, that it doesn't use any local data storage to store any of that private data. I could be using my phone, or I could be using my laptop, but it's keeping all the data out in the cloud. And as I navigate from page to page, I'm not keeping anything local. And that is important because we want to maintain the integrity of the data and the security of the data. We're not storing it in any cookies or local database. So it's important for you to understand that. And from the perspective, I can actually show you how this would look for a user. So as you can see here, This is an example of how this would look on an iPhone. I can simulate how this would look on different devices, such as, a Galaxy. So this is one of the ways that we test the portal, and we apply graphics and so forth to the page. So I can see that I can scroll up and down, and it just resizes the information or reorients the information on the page. So I can see everything on my mobile device. I can pull up and see all the commands that I can perform on the portal. But it's really important for you to understand that this is a way that it's very responsive and it's sensitive to the device that I'm working with.
And that's native, right, Brian? So you didn't have to do anything special to make it work on all those devices, did you?
Correct. There was no customization, other than maybe looking at the graphics to just make sure they look the same on both the tablet or the laptop and the mobile device. So it's really the branding and the graphics that are maybe need a little bit of work, but that's just set once and it's done forever, right?
Yeah, that's awesome.
So that's a great capability. All right, so the thing I want to be able to show you is that, like Anthony said, is that this is built using the Power Platform and the Power Page capability. And from the landing page, I can define exactly the text. So it uses what's called a design studio that is available to your staff to, let's say you want to change the wording. You see that's just a tribe name here, right? It's just a placeholder, but I can go in through Power Pages and edit this page using a design studio and actually change the text on the page, republish, and that string is actually updated. So there's a capability for your team, whether it be your IT team or whoever's a content management person, they can edit and change content that's available out on the portal yourself. You don't need a consultant like us, but we can certainly help you with that. So that's one way that you can use that, and it actually supports multiple languages as well. I won't go into that, but just realize that if you have language specific requirements, the portal can actually be configured to support your native translation language if you want that capability. And again, what we're doing is just showing you some examples of actions or links to, seeing my information. Again, because I'm Alicia, I'm seeing everything that's available to me. But I might want to be able to expose a unified calendar of all the different events that are going on within the tribe. So I can select this and see it in a calendar view of something that's coming up on this specific date, or a college fair that might be coming up. I can see those actions or those events that are going on. But let's say, for example, I want to present it in a way that I'm allowing an individual to actually register for that event. So I can click on that. And now what it's doing is it's actually picking up the data from my record, populating the field, and I can, just says, yep, this is what it's going to do. And behind the scenes, it's going to generate a workflow that creates a calendar invite and sends you an email so that you can say, hey, the event is on this date, this time, and now it's on my calendar. I can add that event to my calendar. So there's a great capability for users to be able to, for your staff to actually dynamically add new events as they pop up, add them to the list, say the date and time when that's going to happen, and they can show up on a calendar and then allow people to register for those events right from the portal. And then that would be accessible to your staff to be able to see all those people that have registered for that event, and then track that attendance, how many people actually showed up for the event. Okay. So now one of the first scenario that I want to be able to do as a member, I want to come in and manage my profile. So I provide pages for me to be able, let's say, for example, in this page, I'm viewing the information that might be visible with the enrollment team. The enrollment team views this information. They manage, their first name, last name, address, you can see all this core data. But let's say, for example, I want to be able to submit a change request. And in this example, I just shown creating an example in the past where I'm actually updating my address. So I can see, for example, let me just submit that, update my address. I can just say moved location, and I'm going to say 401 First Street. And so you can see how I can provide that provide that data, and now I can say this is either my primary address and mailing address, or it's my primary address only, and I can default that type, so I can specify the additional information. And these are configurable, right? So we can change these requests. So you might require that if they're submitting a change or an address change, you can require that they submit a document, for example, such as like a utility bill or a pay stub or something to prove that they actually live at that address. The application of the portal can actually enforce those policy rules and say, hey, I can't submit this unless you upload a document, and then that gets saved. So now I'm going to process that, and it's going to submit that change request. And now it's actually, if I come back into my change request, you'll see that new change request is listed right here, and its status is new. So I can see the history of all my change requests that I've submitted over time, which ones have been approved. And I forgot to add more information for that household member change. Like a custody situation may have come up, and a child is moving into my home. I need to provide proof of that documentation for the enrollment team to make that change on my enrollment record. That's an example of how you can use these systems to enforce your policy, enforce your business rules, and collect the appropriate information that they need to provide.
And that's really cool, because you're really providing status back to the tribal member, like real time, basically near real time, from where the status of something is, as well as interacting with the tribal member. On the profile there, you showed that there was a preferred contact method, right? And I saw that there was an SMS option for texting. So if the tribal member prefers to be texted when these notifications or status updates on these change requests or anything that's happening on the system, they can actually get a text message that's kind of event driven based on what's happening behind the scenes. So there's no, kind of reduce the call volume, reduce the amount of calls or the amount of times they have to go in and say, hey, what's the status of this? What's going on with this? They can just see it right here in the portal. That's awesome.
Yep, exactly. So, and again, what we provide here is just a few different options that, for their profile, and we call it their profile data. In some cases, you might want to have, who are the members of their household. And this information may be important, especially for eligibility for different programs. You may need to know who is in my household, or you may require them to submit their income and expense records, so they can use this data. Just for myself, to be able to say, hey, here's my details that I might need to apply for one of the income-based programs that you make available. So this is the way that you can guide the individual to make sure their profile is complete, up to date, or you can put a business rule on here to say, hey, this is over a year old. You haven't updated your income and expense records in over a year. Please come out and revise this or update this to make sure it's still accurate, so that we can reassess your eligibility for the certain programs that you make available. So this is just a few examples of how you can present information from, in the Dataverse, in the enrollment system, or in the client or the program office, to say, all right, I'm collecting the information about my personal situation that then I can use as calculations or eligibility for different programs that I make available as a tribal organization.
Yeah, a couple questions in chat. Oh,
okay.
Go ahead.
If you got it, that's good. I just want to make sure you guys found.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, John asked, can processes be flow charted? And I was just typing, yes, leveraging Power Automate, right? We have the ability to drag and drop workflow engine components and actions together, and that flow self-documents the entire process from an automation perspective. Another thing we usually get a lot of questions on a lot of these forms that you're seeing is about locking fields as well. And yes, you can actually lock different fields as well and allow users to, enter data in or have those fields be locked and be view only. Jeremiah asked, sort of related, does the system manage text messages to members, or would that be an unrelated system and the SMS preference would just be informational in this case? It's a really great question, Jeremiah. I don't know if you have the flow ready to pull up there, Bryan.
Well, what I can do, I'm going to switch gears real quick. So I'm going to simulate being that back end person. Now I'm an admin person, and I'm going to show you an example of how I could set that up. So I'm going to search for Alicia, and again, I could set this up as an automated workflow to perform this task. But what I can do is I come into my, it was in a different location. So I'm going to create that SMS message, and I'm going to say your profile update is incomplete.
This could be automated as well if you wanted it to be.
Yep. So you could capture that message. Might take a moment for that message to come through, but then it gets routed to my cell phone through a system built into the environment called Azure Communication Services. And that SMS routing will then drive the message to my phone. And of course, it's taken a few moments for that to arrive. But then it also, once I send the message, I also see that message, as I reply from that message, I can also capture that message back in this timeline related to the individual. And I could attach that message either to the contact record, to the application, to many different types of records in the system. And of course, now it's really going to be slow, so I'm just going to move on.
I have to check the flow.
But you get the idea of how those SMS messages can be automated through Power Automate, or automated as part of your business flow to say, hey, you've been approved. That SMS message can automatically get triggered out and sent to the individual and added to this record as evidence that's saying, hey, I notified the individual on this date and time.
Yeah, so that's actually, that timeline is showing previous SMS messages that we've done for other demos as well. So the short answer, Jeremiah, is yes, the system can manage text messages to members, all integrated into the system, into the timeline, and that leverages Azure Communication Services, not only to send the messages from a notification perspective, but also to capture the reply that the tribal member may have. And that could also be another mechanism that you can leverage to submit some of these requests and things like that. So great question.
Yep, thank you.
John asked another question about, can additional fields and profiles be added to add tribal members' education, work experience, background for tribal economic development purposes?
Absolutely. So that's actually one of the aspects. If I go into the contact record, I can see that, in the system, enrollment may already be collecting this information. So you could see what their educational history is, what their skills are. We actually see in some cases where tribes want to offer jobs to tribal members that have specific skills. So you may want to track, that they have a CDL license, or they have accounting skills, or specific training and certification. So you can actually expose this information to allow the member. What we've done is we've just exposed a few different options, but it can absolutely be extended to allow the member to add and enrich their own profile data with this kind of information that's stored in the back office. And
yeah,
you see this as an Yep, go ahead.
The tribal platform, it can do a lot more. We're only showing you a small subset of the fields, but you can absolutely configure fields to be added to capture additional information through the portal, as well as, maybe there's things you want to have internally that you don't want to expose to the portal. You can do that as well. So,
so
David asked,
sorry, go ahead. So you're just to show, here's that example of, an emergency contact. So this is how you could see that it's not editable. I can't change this. I have to submit a change request to be able to add or remove an emergency contact. And that could be modified, right? If your business rule allows them to modify those contacts, they can do that. But here is the view of that same information from an admin, from a staff person. I can come in here and add and remove that new contact. And that will automatically then, it might take a few minutes for that data to synchronize, but once it is updated in the back office, it updates that information on the portal.
Yeah. David has a question about, can you talk about the deployment experience? Does this require pro services from a Microsoft partner?
So typically setting up the portal, we have a base configuration that we provide with a lot of the functionality. But what we found when we deploying the portal, typically we get in, start working with you. You have specific information you want to be able to allow them to update or not allow them to update, different applications that you want to expose to the portal. So the short answer is we recommend that you work with a partner like us to help you get the portal set up. Once we have that set up and configured and up and running, then we can have a conversation about what you want to maintain and allow your team to change versus what you would want us to continue to maintain and update on the. So let's just say it's not an either or. It's let's have a conversation about that and get get you comfortable with what you're able to go maintain and update yourself. Once we show you and get a base portal solution configured for your organization.
So David, to also add to that, what Bryan mentioned is, the portal technology itself for Microsoft doesn't require professional services, right? From a Microsoft partner, we recommend it, and leveraging someone like Arctic IT, who is developed this solution 80%, and then they teach you how to fish and how to use it, right? So the cool thing about that is you can do it on your own with the product directly, but the platform here that you're looking at is already 80% of the way, and so it really helps bootstrap and accelerate the deployment process for your particular tribe.
Right, and we see scenarios like, for example, on my profile, I want to add, I might need the driver license information, or I want to add an application for a motor vehicle registration page. So those are the kinds of pages where you can add to the overall experience and easily deploy those updates. There's just a process that you have to go through to make sure it's done correctly, to make sure that it's maintainable going forward. And so it's easy. It's easy enough to maintain, but it does require some skill and training to make sure it's done properly.
Another question from Jonathan. Curious, does this replace Progeny?
Does this replace Progeny? So that is probably one of the more common enrollment applications that we'd actually replace from a tribal platform standpoint, because it is an enrollment application. But it's more than that. It's a cloud-hosted application that provides, other integration services, other applications. This portal, for example, something that Progeny just can't do. So that's why we're seeing, in some cases, tribes are moving away from Progeny because this platform and the tool sets that's available to you is much greater than what you can do today with Progeny. Good question. Great question.
A comment from Rita, from a past Progeny user, it should replace Progeny. I think that's the last question for now. So you can go ahead and continue on, Bryan.
All right. So
great questions.
They are great questions. So now what I'm going to do is take another step. So I'm gonna say, okay, I've gone through the processes, Alicia. I've updated my profile information. Now I'm going to go in and take a look at maybe what programs are available to me. So I hear that frequently in working with many different tribes, that members don't realize what programs are available to them. They don't know that there might be a car seat program or an elder or a family preservation program, for example. The portal can be a way to help educate your members around all the different programs that might be available. And what you do, I'm going to switch hats real briefly. Back over here onto as a back-end user. This is where I maintain that list. As a staff, a program management team inside your tribe, you manage and maintain this list of active programs that are available to your members to be able to apply, whether they be financial, they might be counseling services, they might just be assistance, financial assistance programs, whatever they might be. You can actually go through a process internally of creating and approving these programs and fund them. And once those programs are funded and approved, then they can actually be shown, they can actually be displayed and published out onto the portal. So your team can actually look at each one of those programs, the date that they might be expired. Or, for example, let's say you have a financial program that it already distributed all its funds, or a car seat program and you'd already distributed all the car seats. You can actually put that program on hold to stop any new applications to arise. So you can communicate that status and update that status of the program live without requiring any editing on your part. As soon as that status changes, that's now automatically available through the portal to your end users. Just an example of how you can expose that information. Another way you can, is there a question?
Sorry, there's a few more questions. I know you're getting the program documents, which is awesome. And we definitely want to show that. But before you show that, David's asking, can you use both if moving off of Progeny is not an option immediately? Can you use both systems?
So, both, I'm not quite clear on the question.
I think, David, maybe if you want to provide some clarification, it sounds like he's asking, can you use both, Progeny and the portals if you can't move off of Progeny right away? Like, could you integrate those solutions together?
So the answer is possible, yes. Yeah. What it would require is for us to actually replicate the data out to a format out on the Dataverse. that would be out that would be out in the cloud hosted subscription that would then be accessible to the portal to design the pages and so forth. So the short answer is yes, you'd have to set up that data replication capability to populate the data out into the cloud or into the Dataverse. But it's not impossible, possible, but let's just say difficult, right? It would require some work.
We'd have to integrate with Progeny. This solution doesn't natively integrate with Progeny. That's something that you'd have to work with an integrator for, like Arctic IT, to develop. John also asked, does this platform seamlessly integrate with accounting software? If so, what are the best recommended? Thanks.
Oh boy, that's a loaded question. So,
can I take it at a high level?
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah. Over 750 connectors, right? Plus you can develop your own custom connectors to integrate this core solution to any accounting software that you may have. And if the accounting software doesn't have an API that we can integrate to, we can leverage robotic process automation to integrate and push records or pull records from that accounting system into Dataverse, into this tribal platform that you're seeing.
So as part of tribal platforms, we do provide a mechanism to be able to integrate and synchronize contact information, member information, payment requests, all those types of transactions that you might want to send over from your enrollment system or from your family and child services assistance programs. You can integrate that to your finance system as either an export through Excel to import into the finance system. That's one mechanism. Connectors, as Anthony mentioned, is another way to integrate, or we've actually used a data replication tool such as like Azure Data Factory to create what they call pipelines. And that pipeline can then take the data from the Dataverse and push and pull data from the finance system through that integration method. So let's just say there's multiple ways to perform that finance integration. We've done that multiple times with different apps. So it's, in some regards, it's a loaded question because it just depends on what your finance system is and if they have an API or an interface method.
And the final part of that question was, if so, what are the best recommended? Obviously you can also use Dataverse to also be your financial solution as well. So, for Microsoft, I would say that's the best, but there's other solutions out there that you can definitely integrate with.
I mean, there's Dynamics 365 Finance, there's Dynamics 365 Business Central. There's lots of different options for you. We've had other webinars where we talk through the different options for financial and ERP replacement. So that's a different conversation, a deeper conversation. But yes, just realize that the portal technology and the tribal platforms, we can virtually integrate with any finance system that you have in your organization.
More integration questions. Michael's asking, can the portal integrate and use RightTrack database with existing member data?
The same answer with Progeny. So that's a hosted environment. So if we needed to do that kind of integration, we probably use something like Azure Data Factory to perform that data replication, or having APIs to actually connect to that RightTrack database. So possible, but it would require some integration to support that capability to do the data replication.
Short answer, yes, we can integrate.
Yep.
John asks, can the platform be used to directly write grants and pull tribal data to auto-populate grant requirements?
So that's one of the processes that we actually use, the back office portion. So as we have programs and see applications for those programs and distribution of funds, we actually use the back end processes to aggregate that data into specific report format for those grant program reporting. So that's kind of out of scope for what we're talking about here. But the short answer is yes, Tribal Platforms has done that for many different tribes to define the program, define the criteria, the data to be collected, and then use it to generate that grant reporting results or grant reporting output that you need to send to the governing agency.
Yeah. So add on, John also said, we use AccuFund. Do we need a new accounting software, or should we integrate this platform with this software? You don't need to replace AccuFund. We can do integration as a part with this solution. If you wanted to, you could, but you don't have to, right? This platform is designed to break down those data silos to any platform. Kind of talking about auto population, are you going to show the registration or the member services eligibility engine today?
Yep. So I'm gonna let me keep moving here, and we'll get to that in a moment. So what I'm showing you now is just an example. So I mean, I showed you, one of those programs are available, but what I've actually done is implemented what's called a Power App, and that app is a mechanism to take documents. Maybe you're creating supporting documents for each of those programs, and you're publishing those documents out to SharePoint Online. That's already in your subscription. This is a way that you could expose those documents that could be reference information for your members to be able to, and I can actually click these to download that content. So this is just an example of how I could, publish meeting minutes for different purposes. And you can see how this information, how that information can be displayed. I can have enrollment applications. I have a list of all the different programs. I can have any kind of document, whether it be spreadsheet, Word documents, or PDF files, and allow users to download and consume that information. Now, the next thing is, from those list of programs, maybe the documents that are available for my reference. Now I want to go through the process and establish my eligibility. Now, behind the scenes, what we've actually are in the process of implementing and deploying. You're getting a preview of some of the new functionality that's coming out in tribal platforms. But on the portal, once you define that list of programs, we're going to add a button to this page that says, hey, run a process that will establish my eligibility based on all my profile information, which programs out there I may be eligible for. And what it can do is say, hey, these are the programs that I'm eligible. And you can see that, okay, I'm the food pantry, I'm not eligible because my income is too high. Or, the Project Aware, I'm auto denied on that program because I'm too old for that type of program. So you can provide an explanation for when I'm not eligible. And you might, like the food pantry, let's say, for example, that Alicia did not fill out her income and expense details. It's going to say she's ineligible because, hey, I have no income data to compare, so I can't tell if you're eligible or not. So you can actually drive the business rules for their program eligibility to give them feedback to say, hey, you got to fill out your profile to go assess whether you're eligible for these other kinds of different types of programs, or which ones that I am eligible for. And let's say I got a scholarship program. I can actually from here click the button to say, hey, I'm going to go apply for this program. And what that does now is it actually drops you into what they call a multi-step form or a multi-form wizard that allows me to walk through the individual steps to fill out my profile information or satisfy all the different content and documents that I might need to submit that application for review. So I'm just example going through the next step. So the first step is my profile. Second step is I just need confirming the information on my household, what data is there, my income information, and then I can default this to say I'm going to apply for this program. You know what? I lost my job. I'm going through retraining, and I can answer all the questions that are typically on your paper-based form. I can add that to this electronic form, and then from here I can say, I can require that I have to provide registration that I've already registered for the school, and I need to upload my documents. So I can pick one of those documents. I'm going to say, hey, I'm opening up my tax file, submitting that, and clicking process. Now you can see as the wizard is walking me through that process. Now this step, and this is where you sort of attestation. So I'm attesting to the accuracy of the data that I've submitted. So I could either type the name, I could, or you can actually integrate this to a tool such as Adobe Sign or DocuSign, so that when I complete this wizard, the workflow would automatically collect the document into a PDF form, populate the thing, send it over to the individual. They would use whichever service you prefer to electronically sign the document, and then the workflow would then continue to say, yes, they signed the document. It's now ready for processing. So there's multiple ways to capture that electronic or attestation signature, and they are legally binding. Typically, that's the point of having the Adobe Sign or Document Sign. Those are legally valid signatures that you can use. So now all of a sudden I can see all the different programs that I've applied for, and the details, and I can drive dive into this. So if, let's say, for example, that I ever didn't complete the whole application, I can see, I can continue filling that out, or I can add a comment here, and this is the correct. Let's say she uploaded the wrong document. So I'm just going to I'll just pick another document and just simulate that. But this is a way now you could see how this comment is added, and there is that meeting minute document that was associated. So now I'm going to switch hats because I've completed that application, and it's 1008. So I'm going to go in here and go into the program applications, and there's that application. So now I literally just click submit before, and here's the application. So on a dashboard, I could be a staff person, and I could see a list of, hey, I want to see all the applications that have arrived that are in this submitted status. So now you might have a couple people that go through, and I can take this application and I might assign it to myself. So that I could say, hey, I'm taking this one, I'm going to go review it and process that application, or I can assign that to somebody else to go process. And here's where you see those comments that Alicia posted on the portal. So the document that she provided, the comment that she added out there, this is where you can manage that communication with the individual.
All integrated, right? And that's what's awesome. And you showed a few cool things, right? You showed queues, you showed like a list of all the things that were there. So we get a lot of questions on that. Like, how do we see the stuff that the user is submitting in the portal? Where does that go to? So you showed that, which was awesome. And then another thing I just want to add, there is, you also talked about assignment, right? And so those can be workflows as well. We get a lot of questions typically on the portal about that, is like, if something's sitting for too long, not only could all of those things send notifications out to internal tribal staff for managing that request, but if for some reason something is sitting in a state too long, or if someone's out of office, right, it can be auto assigned. You can actually set up queues and auto assign and auto divvy out the work as well. Or just say, hey, this has been sitting here too long. It needs to be escalated, and send it to the managers or more distribution lists, or send more notifications, right? So this platform is very powerful in the sense that it can do a lot of that. Yes, no question as well for you, Bryan, since we're running short on time. Have you successfully migrated data from Progeny, migration versus integration?
Yes, absolutely. We've done that multiple times, where we've actually got an out-of-the-box Progeny migration from two tribal platforms to take all the data and documents that are stored inside the Progeny database and migrate that out to tribal platforms. The biggest challenge in that is sometimes you have orphan data inside those legacy applications that we sometimes have to go through and clean up as part of that migration. But the short answer is yes, we've done that migration multiple times, and that's a common scenario that we see tribes wanting to modernize their enrollment team, and that really forms the basis for just about all the other programs and applications that you want to make available. And it really is, that is a starting port for lighting up the portal, is going through that migration from Progeny to tribal platforms.
Yeah, and one other thing that I don't know if we covered, because we've got a ton of great questions. So you're seeing kind of this whole communication thing where you can communicate with the tribal member on multiple platforms, right? Whether they're talking to you via SMS to submit requests. We're focusing on the portal today, but can you go back to the program applications? Because I want to kind of showcase something that you have there. The catalog, right? A lot of questions that we get from tribes as we work with them are, I don't have a good way to show my tribal members, right? It was when you're looking at eligibility, all of the services that are provided to them, all the things that they're eligible for, right? So you can manage a list of all those active programs and almost have a program catalog, if you will, that tells, you saw the rules engine auto evaluate which ones they may be eligible, what programs, but then you have a list, right, where a tribal member can go and see, hey, these are all of the things that I could potentially sign up for, that I can potentially engage with. And I think that's really powerful.
And then you can actually see, here is the list from the program standpoint, all the people that have actually applied. So this is, you can see which ones are in process. I can see which ones were denied, and I can see which ones are approved. And then from this list of service requests that have arrived, I can then, and Alan was approved, and I, went through and created the payment request for $2,000 for that. Now all of a sudden you can build out that process and business rules to say they've submitted the service request. It was approved. They issued the check for $2,000, and now all of a sudden I can use this as a way to establish, as my program grant funded, and what was the original budget amount, and what is the remaining funds. So I can see all the summary information about how many payments, how much was actually distributed, and we can have business rules around this so that when the remaining fund reaches zero, you just stop put the program on hold and stop accepting applications automatically, or saying, hey, you can't apply because the program is on hold.
Hey, we got 2 minutes, Bryan. So I want to answer this question real quick. And then could you show me some charting? Because I'm a visual person. Do you have any charts? Is there anything visually that you can do for this stuff? I know we kind of skipped over the dashboard piece.
Yep. So this is where we can actually create dashboard or charts related to the program. So this could be example all your programs and your budget to actual. And I could say, hey, I want to only look at the let's see, the vocational higher education. I can click on that, and it actually is a interactive chart. So I can click on, and you see how it filters the results. So I can have a funding by category. And I could say, hey, most of my programs are financial, and you can see how it filters the results. And to just that pie, I clicked on that portion of the pie, and then if I click on the treatment portion, it shows me only those two sections. So this is a way that I can, come out to my dashboard, and you can see an example of all the different, lists of active programs. The program services by category, requests by type. Budget to total budget amount, or I can create dashboards, and these are just some that come out of the box with our solution. But you can actually create your own dashboard with information that you might want to have. And for example, you can see just for all your member contacts. This is where I can see all my members by age group, or I only want to say all my contacts that are living, or my members that are living. And I can filter on this, or I might want to be able to, I wasn't one.
All the things. Keep showing it, Bryan. We got one more question from Jonathan. We got like a minute left. A lot of great questions. We have a new branding and are currently going to brand our newsletters. Would this also create newsletters like Constant Contact?
So yes, you could use tools like this to create those newsletters. Typically, with the Constant Contact is a little bit different because there's some authoring tools that are available within the platform to create that newsletter detail. But there's some integrations that could help in the Dynamics 365 suite that we could plug in and integrate to the overall platform to help you with that newsletter creation. But once you have that newsletter created, now you got this list, and you can create automations to say, hey, I only want to send this mailing to one per household. Let's say, for example, if I've got 10 people in the same household, don't send me 10 copies of the newsletter, just send to one household. Or I can say, send this newsletter to every member because they each need to get a copy of this. So there's different rules, and that's where this is truly a customer relationship management system behind the scenes, like Constant Contact. And allows you to perform many of those functions. I just haven't shown you that because that was kind of out of the scope of this portal. But yes, definitely that is capable. It's possible to do that.
We have email templates as well. So we have templates, different communications. So on that timeline, we have the ability to add different communication mechanisms and actually send different branded stuff. So if you have the branding or you built it in HTML and you want to send it out as a newsletter on a schedule, or like Bryan mentioned, some kind of rules, you definitely could do that leveraging the template engine. So
with that, we'll just wrap. Go ahead. There's maybe one last thing that I want to point out here. So I didn't get a chance to show you, but when this page comes up, there's another aspect of capability that I can integrate, or you can integrate on your portal, is actually a chatbot. So this is a chatbot that I can interact with, and it can say, hey, I need to update my address, and I've actually set up to understand that I've got a few questions that this chatbot, I've trained it to answer a few questions, so I can say, hey, I need to update my physical address, point me where do I need to go, what are the clinic.
This is a live 24-hour Power Virtual Agent bot, right? A tier 1 bot that can answer questions for our tribal members and be there 24/7 all the time to answer any questions, and as well as escalate to an agent, right, if they're available in the office provide feedback, rating, and things like that. So pretty awesome
So
stuff.
just realize that that's a capability that's integrated to the portal. I mean, literally, I can drop that onto the portal, train the bot how to answer certain kinds of questions, and all of a sudden it can drive and answer questions for your members through an interactive mechanism like this. So there's some really great capabilities. Haven't even gotten to show you everything, but just realize that there's a lot under the hood going on here. Thank you. So Michelle, I know we've gone over.
Great.
Yeah,
that's okay. Yeah, I know we had a lot of people that were like, we need more demos. So I put your email addresses in there. So anybody who, want more information, or you have specific questions, or you'd like to set up a specific demo for your tribe, reach out to Bryan, reach out to Anthony, even reach out to us. We can make sure to put you in contact. Yeah. So I thought that was a great and super informative. And I agree. I loved seeing that actually in motion, so you could see exactly what it would look like. It was very, very good job. Yep. Good job, you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah. So everybody, thank you again for attending the webinar today. It is recorded. You'll get a copy of it tomorrow afternoon. And I hope everybody has a wonderful, wonderful day.
Yep. Thank you. Appreciate you taking the time.
Yep. Bye, guys. See ya.
Have a good rest of your day.